The Church of Rock.
Where are you located at these days?
In Georgia.
That's what I thought. Okay, the state of Georgia. What's it like there right now? Do you guys, is it stay pretty warm there all the time?
Too warm for me.
Yeah.
I miss the seasons. We've had some cold days the past couple of weeks, so that helps. But I get sick of seeing the sun.
Yeah. What do you do? How do you spend your time during this pandemic? So many of us are going kind of crazy. What do you do?
I'm right with you. Staying at home.
Yeah. It's kind of like you can either be
nothing you can do, and I wouldn't do it anyway because I just don't trust these people to be being. That sounds terrible, but I don't trust everybody to be doing what they're supposed to in order to let you go eat in their restaurant, for instance.
Yeah.
I just assumed it's going to start getting, or has started getting, very lax. So I stay home.
Yeah, and we kind of do the same, and it's winter time here in Oregon, so, at least we have nature to get out in and try to get outside and be around the trees and all the things that do make sense right now.
That does make sense. So, a lot of folks that are listening were very excited that we had you on the show. Do you do many interviews these days?
Not for a while. I haven't done any for a while. I'm trying to think when the last time was. I don't remember. Not 20 years ago, but probably not for a year or so.
Nice. Well, we appreciate you making the time. And I know as a teenager, you grew up much like we did, being a fan of radio. And I know from what I've read, you were a fan of Murray the K's radio show, right?
Oh, yeah. Murray the K and the Swingin' Soiree.
How awesome, man. Well, those great days of radio are kind of gone, but at least we have a few left. But, man, back then it was a whole different animal,
Yeah, it sure was. It's a shame. It's really a shame because it's not worth bothering, and not here, and I think mostly coast to coast. It's not worth, for my taste, the music I want to hear anyway.
Yeah, it's so much.
Just, forget about it.
Yeah.
And if you drove from coast to coast, you'd hear the same 30 songs all the way there.
Yep, you're right. I worked in corporate radio for years, and you are telling the truth, I can tell you.
Yeah.
I have something weird I want to ask you that I've always wanted to know, and I'm not sure of the answer, but maybe you can set me straight.
I'll try.
There was a record released years ago, maybe early 80s, maybe late 70s, and I think Emily XYZ was part of it, and I think it was a Gigi Allen record called Jesus Over New York, with Gigi Allen on, I think perhaps, were you part of that or no?
No, not that I recall. No, I would remember that, I think.
Okay, yeah. I was reading some stuff about Half Japanese and some of your stuff you did in New York, and somebody brought it to my attention that you might have been part of that, so I thought I'd set that one straight. Okay, the answer is no. Okay. After the when the Velvets kind of broke up and were done for the long haul, and before reunions or anything like that, did you always keep in touch with those guys?
Yeah, pretty much. Mostly Sterl, actually, because we've been friends, or I've known Sterling since I was 10. And, we've been friends a long time. He was a friend of my brother's, who's a couple of years older than me. So, and we both, he and I both grew up in Levittown, not near each other, but, I had known him so long that we kept in touch. Not just in touch. His wife was my good friend, and so we was, running around with the same people.
Nice. Yeah. Do you have any particular fond memories of any particular years with the Velvets? Any years that were better than the others?
No, it was a short span, 4 or 5 years, and I can't recall any one being more thrilling than the other.
Right.
Excuse me.
No problem. Did things? How were things once Nico entered the picture? Did things change a lot?
Not that I noticed. No. now that you'd get a whole different answer probably from Lou or John or Sterling, I suppose. I lived at home, and now and then I'd be able to get an apartment for a little while in the city, and then have to come back home and go to work.
Right.
So I wasn't there I was there on the weekends.
Oh, okay.
You know? So I wasn't in on a lot of gossip or whatever might be going on.
Did you ever get to meet either Jim Morrison or Brian Jones?
Jim Morrison I wouldn't bother with, but Brian Jones, no, I never met him.
Oh, I was curious about that. How much time did you spend at Andy Warhol's factory back in the day?
Quite a lot, actually, when I was in the city, which would be, as I said, on weekends, because I lived at home and worked. And, yeah, quite a bit.
That's cool.
Had a good time there, too.
Yeah, so Andy was a friend of yours, I take it, right?
Yeah. I mean, that sounds hesitant, but, yeah, not as close as say, Lou was. But, yes, I really liked Andy a lot.
I tell you, what I found interesting was his Andy Warhol diaries when that got printed years ago. That was really a trip to read.
I haven't read that.
Yeah, it was just different. Someone gave it to me, and I thought, well, this is not something I'd buy, but I was like a car wreck, so I went ahead and read it, and just funny how he kept track of just every single thing, you know?
I should get that, actually.
It's really, really eccentric, and just like you know, everything from what he'd have for dinner on a day to what he really thought about each person, and it was just, you couldn't quit reading it, you know? After the show today, we were going to play the song by the Velvets with you on vocals, After Hours. What's the story behind that? That is such a beautiful song that I love so much.
Well, Lou wrote that with me in mind to sing it. And you'd have to ask him what the story is, because he wrote the lyrics.
Yeah.
I think one of the things he said was it was just too beautiful of a song for him to sing it. Just him to sing it. So I took that as a big compliment for you. You know, him saying that it was just too...
Is that Tracy asking me a question? Because I can't hear her.
Yeah, she was just saying that she had read somewhere that Lou said it was too beautiful for him to sing it, so she thought that was a compliment towards you.
He hasn't heard me sing before.
That is a pretty haunting little song. It's just so cool in its essence. I love it.
Yeah. It's funny how well, when I was playing with my own band, and we'd tour Europe, I was really amazed that so many people in the audience would sing along with that song. And, you know, I'm not sure why, to be honest, but it's very popular. In fact, when my son went to college, he was moving into the dorm or the frat house, whichever, and didn't know anybody yet, really. And as he was doing something on the first floor, some guy came down the stairs of the second floor singing After Hours.
Wow. What a trip, small world.
Did you ever think, Mo, that all these years later that the Velvet Underground and just kind of the whole scene that was taking place during that era, you know, everybody kind of says, you know, the same thing, that no, they didn't realize at the time, but did you ever kind of it dawn on you that it would have such an impact, that whole, just that period of time in music, and the influence of the Velvet Underground and all the things that came with it, the Andy Warhol, and just all of that surrounded, and you were right in the middle of all that. Did it ever seem to you like, wow, this is going to be remembered someday, or this is just going to be, you know, or did it just seem like something you were doing and nobody really... Yeah, so you never really had any idea that it would have that big of an impact.
No, I don't think any not just band, but anybody who, I guess, creates something thinks that, oh, wow, in 30 years I'll be famous. You know?
Right, right.
And I don't think I do think that there were more people in those days playing music who really were doing it because they loved it so much. And it seems to me that for a long time now, and this sounds snooty maybe, but for a long time now, I think that many people who play music, and especially so many who become big stars, got into it in order to become a big star and make a lot of money.
Yeah, for the wrong reasons, pretty much. I did read a line from, I'm not big into music critics at all, but I did see a particular sentence that I thought was pretty telling. It was a guy, I think his name was Robert something or other, but he had said of you that, and I quote, "Mo was a great drummer in a minimalist, limited, audiodactic way that I think changed musical history. She is where the punk notion of how the beat works begins." And I thought that was like, wow, that's a really, that's a huge compliment, you know?
Yeah, interesting. Very nice.
And, you know, they kind of talked about your style.
I always thought that if you, I don't know how big a fan you guys are of like 50s music.
Huge.
Yeah, huge.
But if you listen, it's shocking how there's no cymbals anywhere. It's CYM I'm talking about, not SY.
Yeah.
You're known for not using them. That's right. You never use the cymbals.
Very rarely. I'd have one sitting there sometimes, way into our career, and it never occurred. That occurred to me, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. A friend had sent me a tape of a whole bunch of girl group songs that 90% of which I'd never heard, and it was a tape, in fact, so it was more than 5 or 6 years. It was probably 25 years. And I was at my computer and had it on, and, you know, wow, this is great. What is that? And who's that? And blah, blah, blah. And then I suddenly realized after about 12 songs I hadn't heard one cymbal.
Wow.
And then when I thought, like, Buddy Holly or Chuck Berry, all this shit excuse me, sorry.
It's okay.
All the stuff I love, there's no cymbals.
Wow. You know, also, the folks might not know that you used a mallet. You used mallets instead of drumsticks, and that you also considered a drummer as somebody that was there to be keeping time, and that's how you looked at it.
Yeah, that is. And especially with Lou and John at the helm during the beginning of our collaboration.
Yeah.
When we did a lot of jamming, I guess, and they would just go off on like, oh my God, what are they doing? And I felt like it was my job to keep the beat, so when they were, and separately, I don't mean they go up together on something, but, you know, John would do something, and they wouldn't change the beat. It's hard, they wouldn't lose the beat, but it's hard, a little bit difficult to explain. But I felt like they needed to have something to come back to when they're done fooling around.
I get it. Yeah.
So that was part of my mission. My mission, you know, that wasn't my entire idea, but I just hate when I see drummers with, 12 drums and 14 cymbals, and I mean, why bother? Holy God!
You kept it in the pocket.
Yeah. Unknowingly, I wouldn't. If someone asked me at the time, I wouldn't have said that. That wouldn't have come to mind. I would just have said,
I get it.
I don't know. That's the way I play.
Yeah.
Well, and it's crazy because in the 80s, when kind of I don't know, I call it hair metal,
Yeah. Oh God.
You just had these like just insane drum kits that were,
ego.
Yeah.
I mean, Tommy Lee comes to mind of Motley Crue with his 99 pieces of drum kit, whatever, and it's spinning around and the cymbals are crashing and you can't hear anything else. And I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm a roots rock kind of person. So for me, it's like a good rhythm section is what is what keeps the beat of the band, and it just, it doesn't need to be all of that, and it just kind of takes away, I think, from the actual...
Oh, it does for me, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
Less can be more.
Much so.
Yeah, less can be more. They said that for some reason, and that's the reason.
Yeah. And any drummer you might mention is 100 times, technically 100 times better than me. I couldn't do a roll if someone offered me $1 million. Thankfully, I'm glad because it worked out perfect, in my opinion, for the Velvets.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I was all over the place, it would have been a somewhat different, different enough. Again, this is my opinion. I'm not lauding myself as the creator of the Velvet sound by any stretch, but I think it would have been a lot different if there was some lunatic drummer with 12 drums and twirling sticks and all that nonsense.
Yeah, had Keith Moon been in the band, it would have been a whole different sound.
Yeah.
To change subjects just briefly, and I don't like talking politics, so I'm just going to ask a brief question. Do you still think all politicians are liars, bums, and cheats?
Yeah, basically.
I do.
I mean, it's shocking, and
It is.
I've thought that forever. Well, ever since I was, 25 when I started paying very slight attention, but some attention. I don't know how many times I've mentioned to my kids if there was something going, they were liars,
Yep.
And it's shocking. It really is.
I just had to ask
and
that.
What kills me is how they can lie. And I'm not talking about either party. It's the whole damn bunch.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And lie to the camera, an outright lie that they know is a lie, with no compunction.
Sociopathic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's shocking.
It really is, and it's depressing, and it's disheartening, and shit, Oh, God, here I go. I'm sorry.
And what's even more, I think, shocking is that some people still tend to believe them.
Oh, yeah, many still believe them.
Yeah, that's
You need to get to be 60 before you come to your senses, maybe.
I just don't get it, because it's like they never come through with the promises, so I'm not really too sure what's going on here. I always think there must be something, in the water, or
yeah. No kidding.
But I saw that comment too, and we wanted to ask you that, and I said I kind of hope she does still feel the same way. So good to know.
I do, and it's depressing and very, very disheartening.
Hey Mo, what was it like working with the late Daniel Johnston?
It was odd, and I can't really I can't say because this or that. I knew his Jad and he, as you probably know, had been friends for a long time, but I didn't know him at all. I'd never met him, and it was interesting. We did that song in maybe 2 takes.
Wow.
Very quickly, maybe even 1. I don't remember, to be honest, but it wasn't a thing to, didn't take 5 takes or something.
Right.
And, yeah, what a shame. I feel sorry for him for his whole life.
Yeah.
What a shame.
He suffered a lot, but he made a lot of people happy with his art.
Oh, yeah.
What about Jonathan Richmond? How was it like working with the Modern Lovers frontman, Jonathan Richmond?
Oh, good old Jonathan. I love him. I love his songs. I don't know what else to say. I love his stuff.
Nice. Another question. What is, do you have any favorite Velvet Underground songs that come out when I ask you that, like right off the top of your head?
Oh, I got about 20 favorites.
Nice. Can I hear 1 or 2?
Ray, Heroin, Pale Blue Eyes, Mira, All Tomorrow's Parties. God.
Awesome. Waiting for my man, yeah. I'm
always thrilled with the version that was recorded. Was on, what is it, the first record? I don't even remember, first or second record.
Right.
I loved that version, which was, the version we always did, but this one just gives me chills.
Well, something weird happened today. It's just a funny anecdote I'll just share with you. You might find it humorous. I was speaking earlier today with an ex-member of the Bay City Rollers band, and he and I were talking, and something was brought up that in some expression like waiting for the man, and he said, "Yeah, man, the Velvets, waiting for my man." And I said, "Hey, man, like in 8 hours, I'm talking to the drummer of the Velvets on my show." He's like, "No, you're not." And I said, "Yes, I am." And it's so weird. He had no idea you were even coming on.
Yeah. Does he live out there?
He lives in Edinburgh, Scotland. We were just talking from Scotland to here, and it just happened to bring up that song. I go, "That's weird." Synchronicity, I guess. Do you do any music these days, or are you just are you done with the music and art world, or do you still do stuff?
No, I haven't for quite a while. I take care of my grandson, who is now 19, but I've been taking care of him since he was probably 4, and I really couldn't go touring. Whenever there was something came up, like the thing in Paris, or the thing at the public library, the New York Library, things like that. One of my kids, or when my mom was still alive, she wasn't alive when he was, excuse me. One of my kids would volunteer to come and watch him so I could go. But I couldn't do a tour.
Right.
Because all my kids work and have their own things to do. They couldn't be here for a month.
Yeah.
So I haven't done anything.
Well, hopefully you have a great relationship with your grandson. Is that what you said?
Yeah, we do. We do.
That's awesome.
He just graduated in June. Excuse me. And he has high-functioning autism and ADHD. Thankfully, no behavior problems. But he can be really, really funny, not purposely.
You're right.
Smart as a whip and a good kid. I'm very proud of him.
That's great. I have never been diagnosed, but I suspect and I've been told that I have ADHD myself. I
think I do too. In fact, I know I do.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me. About a year ago, I was teasing him or something, and I said, "You know what? I'm as bad as you are." Speaking of like being organized, and remembering to write down the grocery list and then go to the store without the list, and just all sorts of things. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, damn, I do have it. Maybe.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do, because you hear a lot of people say that.
Yeah, always forgetting my keys, my wallet, my phone, just what you said, making a list and leaving it at home.
Yeah, and putting, I think, a major thing that many people do who have ADHD, well, let me put this here so I'll remember where it is, whatever, something important. And then a week later, where the hell did I put that?
I know. You got to make a note to remember your note.
Yeah.
Well, it's always great talking Velvet Underground music, especially with a member of the Velvet Underground. I think we're going to slide into a Velvet Underground song, and I really want to express my gratitude for you making the time to talk with me and Tracy today. Mo, it's a pleasure speaking with you.
Well, thank you for being interested. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, we could talk all day. There's so much in your musical history of your solo bands and the projects you've done, and we didn't even touch on most of it, but we're not really a talk show, more of we are like a variety show, but we just couldn't wait to have you on, and boy, what an honor.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm honored, too. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Mo. We really appreciate it and would love to have you on again in the future, possibly, if you're up for that.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and I might get a hold of Carrie to send something your way to see if you'll consign something for our library, perhaps.
Okay, sure.
That'd be awesome. Mo, thank you again. You're listening to KSKQ, my friends, at the Church of Rock radio show. We are wrapping up our conversation with Mo Tucker of the Velvet Underground, and in our opinion, rock royalty. Mo, thanks so much, and best of luck to you and your grandson and your whole family.
Same to you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.